before the video starts, I want to clarify. I actually never knew it was pronounced Albert Camus, and you're gonna hear me say Albert Camus a few times throughout the video, but hopefully that doesn't anger anyone. But yeah, just clarifying. Let's start off with the obvious. You wake up, you brush your teeth, you eat, you go to work, or maybe even school. You get home, you eat again, scroll, fall asleep, and then the next day you do the exact same thing. And then again, and again, and again, just like clockwork. That is the root of absurdism. When you ask yourself the question you've likely been avoiding, the question of why do I keep doing this, that is the core of the theory of absurdism. And I don't mean absurdism in the sense of something being silly or, something being irrational. No, I mean absurdism in the philosophical sense. The conflict between your desire for meaning and the apparent lack in the universe of that. You want your life to begin to mean something, but every single time you look for it, really look for that meaning, it slips through your fingers. That is the absurd condition. Albert Camus, which is, the thinker most associated with this idea of absurdism, framed it in a way which goes like this. Humans are meaning-making creatures. The universe is indifferent, cold, and silent. The tension between those two, our need for answers, and the universe's refusal to give them, is absurd. You're in a world that doesn't care, yet you still have to live. So what are you going to do? Camus offers three different, responses to this situation. The first response is suicide. Kill yourself, And he tackles that suicide aspect very directly. It's not a comfortable nor, realistic truth, but it's honest. And, it is an outcome. If life has no meaning, is it worth to live? He inherently does say yes, but not by deluding yourself or pretending that there's a meaning where there isn't, However, the second option, which is a bit more reasonable, is philosophical suicide. Religion, blind faith, ideologies that, they inject meaning from outside. These may feel like some sort of salvation, but to Albert Camus, they are simply another way of dodging the truth and the reality. And the third, and the only one which he endorses, is to revolt. Accept the absurd, embrace the absurd, and stare into the void and smile regardless. Now that, I believe, is a very powerful idea. I'm not here to debate the first two because, frankly, suicide is quite a stupid option, and I'm not here to politically argue about religion or anything like that. Now, you have to understand that Camus gives a metaphorical idea for this. The myth of Sisyphus is a great example that Camus brings up. Sisyphus was the man who was cursed to roll a boulder up a hill for eternity, only for it to roll back down every single time, no matter how hard he pushed. It sounds like torture, it sounds like hell. However, Camus ends with a twist. One must imagine Sisyphus as happy. Because once Sisyphus accepts the fate that he's forced to roll this boulder up the hill forever, once he owns the absurdity of his condition, he becomes free to that condition. There's no pretending nor bargaining, simply honest existence. Think about the life that you currently is, your own life, the routines that you go through daily, your setbacks, the goals that crumble the moment you begin to reach them. They are your boulder. But maybe the problem itself isn't the boulder. Maybe instead the problem is how you think about it. Absurdism isn't the idea of telling yourself to give up. Instead, it's telling yourself to wake up. It says, yeah, of course the universe isn't going to give a shit about your goals, but you can still care because you are still a person. Where it gets deeper is that absurdism isn't nihilism. It's not saying that life has no meaning, which is practically nihilism. Instead, it is saying that life has no inherent meaning, and that is the opportunity that you have to build off. Because if there's no meaning given to you by the universe, then the meaning you create for yourself is everything. That choice itself becomes sacred. That is where absurdism meets responsibility. Friedrich Nietzsche would call this amour fati. I'm not sure if I pronounced that right, but it kind of translates to the love of fate. The idea that you don't simply accept your life, but instead you embrace it. You understand that there's going to be flaws and everything like that, and you still learn to embrace it, everything, even the suffering that comes with the life. Albert Camus wasn't as poetic as Nietzsche was, but he echoed and he reverbed the same idea. He told you to live fully without appeal. So I'm going to get practical now. What does this mean for your life, sitting here in such an absurd world? It means that you have to stop waiting. You have to stop waiting for somebody to hand you a purpose. You have to stop waiting for conditions to be perfect. Absurdism isn't some magical solution to anything either. Instead, it's a mirror. It shows you the tensions that are in your life, and it dares you to move anyways. And that is what makes absurdism so powerful. Because once you finally accept that the universe doesn't owe you any sort of meaning or anything like that, you begin to stop begging for something, and instead you start building. And you stop chasing some sort of illusion that someday everything will make sense. So yeah, maybe you are Sisyphus, and life may be your boulder, and there will be a hill that you're going to have to roll the boulder up. So understand that you have a choice. Roll the boulder with purpose, and in the face of absurdism, understand that you create your own meaning.